welcome to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about common mistakes that people make when they're trying to cut belly fat. Now you're probably wondering, Ben, who are you to talk about trying to cut belly fat? You're hardly the trimmest person yourself. Now understandably, I can understand where you're coming from. I'm not really the leanest person going at this moment in time. However, I have done 2 cuts now, and the mistakes that I made during those cuts I'm hoping to share with you so you can avoid doing them yourself in the future. Now we should probably start with what a cut actually is. Cutting is when you're in a calorie deficit, which by definition means you're eating less calories than your body needs, and thereby will allow you to lose weight. The amount of calories that you're in a deficit by will determine how much weight you will lose and how quickly. Now the downsides and what to be careful of here is that you don't want to be going into too aggressive a deficit by maybe 500 calories or more, as that's going to make you lose weight too quickly for it to be sustainable and also be healthy. A common mistake for people to be making when they first go into a cut is to completely change their diet from what they're currently eating. So for example, people will be eating around about 3,000 calories a day and will instantly assume that they need to go down to 2,000 calories, and they will cut away any carbs, any fat, and try and eat salads and chicken all day long, which isn't sustainable and it's not going to work for you. So when first thinking about going into a cut, you should know that you want to be making small changes to your diet over a sustainable period of time in order to allow yourself to have progressive weight loss and more sustainable weight loss. And something to be aware of when you're thinking about how many calories you should be setting yourself for going into a cut is to look at your actual activity level, what sort of job it is that you're doing. Do you have an active job? Do you have an active lifestyle? Are you going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week? The more active you are, the more calories that you will need to maintain your body weight, and so the higher amount of calories you'll be able to eat in order to still maintain a shallow deficit and continue to lose weight. So for example, myself, I have quite an active job. I also go to the gym roughly 5-6 times a week, therefore increasing my metabolic rate. What this means is that I am able to eat more calories myself to maintain my not current body weight, and then therefore when going into a deficit, I only have to cut a small amount of those calories off in order to go into a calorie deficit. So maintenance calories around about for me are around about 3,000 to 3,200, and therefore if I was to go into a shallow cut, I would probably go around about 2,700 to 2,900 calories a day. So when cutting, you should really be treating this like almost a scientific experiment on yourself. You want to be trying to keep as many variables as standardized as you possibly can. So for example, your calories, your activity level, by measuring say your step count in a given day. You also want to be measuring how much water you're intaking on a general day, and you want to try to be weighing yourself at the same time every single day. What this means is that in terms of tracking your progress, it makes things a lot easier, knowing that any changes in your weight will only be affected by the one variable being your calorie deficit. So standard rate of weight loss would be around about 1% of your body weight per week. For example, myself, I used to weigh 85 kilos, so a standard rate of weight loss for me would be 850 grams, or just over half a pound of body fat per week. Any more than that, and I would say that's far too an aggressive a weight loss, and it's not going to be sustainable. So in terms of food, the first tip I'd give to anybody is, if you're not hungry, then don't eat. You have a set number of calories that you can eat throughout the day, and you should only really use them whenever you feel like you're hungry. So for example, with myself, I know I'm not particularly hungry in the morning, and so I won't force myself to eat a set number of calories in the morning. I will just eat what I feel like and save those calories for later in the day when I know I'm going to be hungry. So closer to dinner time or the evening means that I'm going to be a lot more satisfied with my meal then. In my own cut, I made the mistake of trying to eat a set number of calories each time in the day. And what ended up happening was, in the morning it was fine, I was maybe a bit fuller than I would have liked to have been, but when it got to the evening, the meal that I had wasn't appetizing enough, and it didn't fill me up. And what ended up happening was I got grouchy, I got hangry, and all you end up doing is obsessing about when you then get your next meal. And that's almost the start of a dark path to starting a food eating disorder. In terms of your actual diet itself as well, don't worry too much about all these different diets that are out there, like the Atkins, the intermittent fasting, you name it. The main thing to remember is that it's the calorie deficit that is going to allow you to lose the weight. These diets are just different tools and different methods in way of creating a calorie deficit for yourself. So if it's easier for you to just cut out a few things, say higher fat sauces or condiments, or just slightly decreasing the sizes of your portions in your meals, then by all means do that. However, if you know that you like to have bigger meals and you would find it easier for yourself to say intermittent fast by skipping breakfast and then creating yourself an 8-hour window to eat within, then do that. It's each their own. Everybody's different, and everybody has a different way in which they like to go about trying to lose weight. But the main thing to remember is that it's the calorie deficit that's going to allow you to lose that weight in the first place. So in terms of knowing that you're in a calorie deficit, you have to track your macronutrients. There's no easier way to fail in dieting than not tracking what it is that you're eating. You've got so many tools out there that can help you to follow this and track your calories. An app that I use is called MyFitnessPal. Honestly, one of the greatest tools that I've ever come across in my muscle building, body fat losing career, if you want to call it. But what it allows you to do is to follow your macronutrients, how much carbs you're taking in, how much fat you're taking in, how much protein, but ultimately how many calories you're also taking in. And it allows you to also track your weight. And by doing this, you're setting yourself up and you're preparing yourself for the process of cutting, which isn't easy itself. And without, basically, if you fail to prepare it, then you're preparing yourself to fail in losing that weight. And what might happen is you'll do an aggressive cut and it'll become difficult because you've gone far too low in your deficit. You'll relapse and you'll eat loads of more food to make up for the food that you've been missing. And then ultimately you might actually set yourself in a worse position than where you started. So tracking your macros and your activity and everything else are the fundamentals to losing weight. Now for the bodybuilders out there, those that have been trying to build muscle, say they've just been in a bulk and they're now going into a cut, congratulations, you've done well. But now comes possibly even a tougher stage to try and get your physique to where you want it to be than the actual bulk itself. In terms of getting to that level of body fat that you want to get to, but also holding on to the muscle that you've gained throughout your bulk, you need to try to be hitting the same intensity in your workouts as you have been previously. And on a depleted diet in terms of calories, that can be difficult to do so if the calorie deficit is too deep. You want it to be fairly shallow. Your body doesn't naturally want to hold on to the muscle when it goes into a calorie deficit. It will be one of the first things that it will try to lose. So in terms of keeping that there, you want to be having a high protein diet, but also keeping the intensity of your workouts as high as you possibly can, or as close to what they were when you were bulking and at your strongest. And that way you'll set yourself up for the best chance of holding on to the muscle that you've gained and then also losing body fat. Having more muscle on your frame actually benefits you in terms of losing body fat in the first place. The example that I like to think of is, take a car for example. You have a little 1 litre engine car. It's fairly fuel economic in terms of its fuel. The fuel in this case being the food that you would put into your body. Now, by adding muscle to your frame, you're essentially making the engine of your car bigger, and by making the engine of your car bigger, it's going to require more fuel in order to keep it running. So by having more muscle in your frame, you will increase your metabolic rate, which will allow you to eat more calories and then have more leeway in manipulating your calories to put yourself into a deficit. Now, more just in terms of general downsides, cutting isn't a fun experience. You can get hangry, you can get lethargic, you'll naturally want to be more lazy and you'll probably won't even notice it. So this is why I say things like tracking your footsteps and the reps and the weights that you're using in the gym. It's really important in helping you maintain the intensity that you have been doing so before, because you will naturally slack off and become a lot more lazier, because your body doesn't naturally want to lose weight. It would rather be in a state of comfort than having to let go of what it's holding on to, so that being muscle and fat. One other thing that I also forgot to mention was sleep. Sleep is so important for the recovery when you're in a cut. If you're still going to the gym and lifting the same weights and the same reps and the same intensity as you were beforehand, you're going to need that sleep even more so than you did before to make sure that your muscles are repairing and you're recovering properly, to be able to hold on to the strength and the gains that you've already made. Without that sleep, your muscle will deteriorate and almost disappear slowly due to the fact that you're in a calorie deficit, unfortunately. So in terms of holding on to the gains that you've made, make sure that you're getting the right amount of sleep, and almost dandy. So in summary, basically just set yourself short-term goals to achieve as well as a long-term goal. Take your time and don't overdo it. Like all things, the best things or the best things that you want always come the hardest. And so getting to that physique that you really want, it's much better to take a slow approach and make it there than try and do it quickly, because ultimately you might put yourself in a worse position than where you were starting from. It's like the old saying goes, slow and steady wins the race. It really does, and anything worthwhile going for always requires a slow and meticulous and well planned out approach. But I hope you found this helpful. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like. If you're new around here, make sure to subscribe. If there are any other videos that you would like me to make talking about certain subjects, leave a comment down below. And if not, I'll catch you in the next one.